Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark for the Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1966/67 Russian epic 6.5 hour war movie, War and Peace.
Везде все говорит, что только думаешь.
Hey, well, sometimes I get it right? I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1966 with War and Peace. I have to be as quiet as I can with this review, so I'm sorry if it's not as loud as normal. My 2-day-old child is sleeping in the bedroom with my wife, so I'm trying to be as loud and as quiet with this review as I possibly can. This movie is based on the epic novel by Tolstoy, also called War and Peace. This has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 94% fresh rating from the audience. And like I said earlier, it is 6.5 hours long. Now, I almost didn't watch it. I almost skipped this movie just because of how long it was. I didn't think I would have enough time to watch it. I really wasn't looking forward to watching a movie over multiple days. And halfway through, my graphics card died, so I had this like a week in between viewing. But I will say I'm glad I stuck with it because this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. To be perfectly honest, it has absolutely everything you could want in a movie. If you can stomach 6.5 hours of a foreign language film, I would definitely recommend watching this. This movie was partially written by Sergei Bondarchuk, who also directed the movie and starred in the movie. And a 6.5 hour movie to do all three of those is absolutely crazy. So this movie is set in 4 parts. I watched it on YouTube. There's a free version on YouTube that you can watch that is not dubbed. It has subtitles, which I prefer. I do not want to watch a foreign movie that is dubbed because they are always terrible. And this version, I'm assuming, was remastered because it is like a painting coming to life. Is how fantastic this this remastered work was for this movie. I mean, it is visually the most stunning movie I've ever seen in my life. And considering it's from 1966, I think that's saying something. There were literally thousands and thousands of extras in this movie to set up the battle scenes, and this was back when there were no green screens. This was back when there was no gimmicks that you could do to make it seem like if there were thousands of people in the field. There actually are thousands of people in the battlefield in this movie, and the way it's filmed is absolutely gorgeous. So essentially, like I said, it's broken up in 4 parts. The first part is about 2.5 hours, and the other 3 parts about an hour and a half each. The first part sets up the main character, who is Pierre. Now, Pierre is played by Bondarchuk, and he is a illegitimate son of a wealthy nobleman. We follow his life throughout the entire movie. In the beginning, he is kind of a party animal. You see him partying with like his friends, and he kind of has no direction in life.
Господа, я тоже сделаю. Я выпью. Давай бутылку рома. И пари не нужно. Вот что.
Пускай. У тебя и на лестнице голова.
Вели дать бутылку, я сделаю. Вели.
He ends up having this really big party where he does a lot of illegal things and he gets in trouble. And his family, he's kind of shunned by his family, and he's basically asked that you need to kind of settle down and figure out what you're going to do with your life. Now, at the same time, Napoleon is going to war with Russia. He has decided he's going to invade Russia, and Pierre has to decide whether or not he wants to join this battle. He wants to join the military to join in on this war against Napoleon. In the beginning, he decides he doesn't want to do that. He has this long conversation with his friend Andre, who does join the war effort, and he just basically says that he sees no reason for it. He doesn't have, his heart isn't in this, like, to battle the greatest military mind in the world is just not something that he's looking to do.
Кавалергард ты будешь или дипломат?
Можете себе представить, я все еще не знаю. Ни то, ни другое мне не нравится. Но он масон должен быть.
Все это бред, не поговорим лучше о деле. Был ты в конной гвардии?
Нет, не был. Но вот что мне пришло в голову, и я хотел вам сказать. Теперь война против Наполеона. Если бы это была война за свободу, я бы понял. Я бы первый поступил в военную службу. Ну, помогать Англии, Австрии против величайшего человека в мире? Это нехорошо.
At the same time, Andre falls in love with a female. Her name is Natasha. Before he goes to war, he promises that he's never going to leave her, that they're going to get married, and that they're going to live this life together. He ends up going off to war, and while he's at war, she ends up finding another guy that she falls in love with. Now, she's really young, and it seems like she pretty much just falls in love with anyone that she finds. Anyone who crosses her path and who gives her this smile is someone that she falls in love with. And she eventually decides that she loves this man more than Andre, so she decides that she is not going to marry Andre anymore. And at the last minute, she decides that this is a bad choice and that she does want to be with Andre, but he decides that he does not want to be with her. So they end up just not being together. Pierre also falls in love with a woman. They get married, and she ends up cheating on him. After this, he tells Natasha that he loves her.
Но если бы я был не я, а красивейший, умнейший и лучший человек в мире, и был бы свободен, я бы сию минуту на коленях просил руки.
And he becomes more interested in the war effort. He becomes more interested in wanting to fight in the war. I don't know if it's because deep down inside he knows that Napoleon is incredibly evil. He's seeing the destruction that's happening to Russia. He's seeing just how bad things are for his country, and he decides that he wants to rise up and fight. Or if he just seems like he's very interested in the idea of war, the idea of playing war, and the idea of the gamesmanship of war, the idea of outsmarting someone. So he ends up going into battle. He dresses up in his regular nobleman clothes, and he goes into battle, and he says, "Hey, I'm here to help you guys."
Вот как. Какими судьбами? Вот не ждал.
Я приехал. Так, знаете, приехал. Мне интересно, я хотел видеть сражение.
Dressed as a nobleman, which is very fish out of water type of thing, and it's actually pretty funny. But at the same time, the battle that's going on around him is just so tragic and so intense. I mean, I think the third part of the movie focuses mostly just on the battle, and these battle scenes are just crazy. They are the explosions going off everywhere. There's thousands of people shooting artillery and rushing at each other, gunfighting everywhere. It's just absolutely intense, these battle scenes. You see the cannoners firing cannons and getting blown up and it's just brutal. This is an incredibly brutal movie, the way these scenes are filmed, and you really feel for these characters. This is sort of the way this is set up is that the people who are in charge, like the higher brass of the military, really have no idea what's going on on the battle scenes. They believe that they're winning because they're told by yes men that they're winning this battle, and they want to believe that Russia is winning. So they have this idea in their head that they are winning and that they can keep pushing forward and that they can keep going into battle and they can keep trying to win and that they will eventually win.
Кричат ваши светлости. То, что я видел. Войска в полном расстройстве. Как вы смеете? Как смеете вы, милостивый государь, говорить это мне? Вы ничего не знаете. Неприятель отбит на левом и поражен на правом фланге.
Whereas the people on the battlefield are telling them, no, we're losing. We're losing every battle we're fighting. We don't have any men left. Everyone's dying. You need to stop. But, I mean, they refuse to stop. They keep slaying their men, and their men keep dying. Eventually, there comes this scene where the guy who's in charge admits, hey, look, you guys are right. We need to stop. We need to surrender because we are losing this battle. We are definitely not winning this war at the moment.
Господа, я слышал ваше мнение. Некоторые будут со мной не согласны. Но я властью, врученную мне моим государем и отечеством, приказываю отступление.
One of my favorite scenes in this movie is there's a general who is talking about the Russian army, and he's saying that the Russian army will win because they are the ones that are fighting with the most heart. They're the ones that are fighting. They have the most to lose. They have their country to lose, and therefore, eventually, they will win the war. And I think that's a bit ironic, and it was a bit moving because what we see in Ukraine today. And Russia attacking Ukraine, that's exactly why Ukraine's winning the war too. So I just thought, like, when you see something like that in a movie, and it makes you think of events that are not only happening right now, but are happening being caused by the country that this was happening to in the movie back then. I just thought it was a really poignant part of the movie.
Проиграли сражение. Позиция? Все это вздор, ничего этого нет. А мне зачем там было драться? Поскорее хотелось уйти с поля сражения. Что нам предстоит завтра? Для меня на завтра вот что. 100-тысячная русская и 100-тысячные французские войска сошлись драться. Факт в том, что эти 200 тысяч дерутся. И кто будет злее драться и себя меньше жалеть, тот победит.
At the end of the movie, we see the generals are finally willing to concede that they are losing. They end up losing Moscow, and Moscow is just set ablaze. Like the entire city is just set on fire.
Который ваш дом?
Он самый. Она самый наша потера была. Сгорела! Сокровище ты мое! Батечка! Барышня ты моя!
It's rummaged through, it's pillaged, the men are executed. At the end of the movie, Pierre tries to assassinate Napoleon, and he ends up getting captured, and he is set to be killed, but he ends up getting freed. He doesn't get killed, and at the end of the movie, he ends up announcing his love for Natasha. They end up together at the end of the movie, I believe. So it's a really nice story watching Pierre transition from this kind of young guy who is sowing his wild oats, has real no direction in life, to, in the middle of the movie, really finding himself and finding a movement that he wants to follow and finding like a reason for wanting to save his country and a reason to wanting to fight against the French. And at the end of the movie, the relationship kind of comes together. And I thought the ending was perfect, to be perfectly honest. The camera work in this movie is just amazing. I know when I reviewed I Am Cuba, I said it probably had some of the best camera work ever, and that I didn't think I would ever find a movie that would top that. And I have. This movie has cameras mounted on horses. It has cameras coming from cranes from the sky. It's just incredible what they do with the cameras in this movie. The 4K quality, the version that I watched of this movie, like I said, is just beautiful. It's like a painting that's just come alive. The story is perfect. The length of the movie is 6.5 hours. Like I said, I was worried when I went into this because I thought it would drag. I thought it would be the hardest movie in the world to watch, but it was when after it was over, I wanted more. I said, "Could this movie be 10 hours instead of 6.5?" That's how amazing it was. I was into the story. I was moved throughout the entire movie. The battle scenes are just so tragic. Seeing what these soldiers are going through, knowing that they have no way of winning, knowing that they're going to their death and still going in and fighting and putting everything they have into this battle, trying to save their country.
Он знал, что завтрашнее сражение должно было быть самое страшное изо всех тех, в которых он участвовал. И возможность смерти живостью, почти с достоверностью, просто и ужасно представилось ему.
Trying to do what they can for Russia. It's just moving. This whole movie is just, it's probably one of the most perfect movies I've ever seen in my life, to be perfectly honest. There's just really nothing bad about this movie. Now, I've heard the dubbed versions are really bad. The English dubs are terrible. I watched a little bit of a dubbed version and it wasn't good. So I do recommend watching it in its original language and just watching it with subtitles. And if you can do that, and if you can find a version of it that is remastered, where the colors are just popping off the screen, like I said, it looks like it's a painting that's just come alive, it'll be probably the best 6.5 hours you've ever spent watching a movie, because you've never spent 6.5 hours watching a movie before. But this movie's perfect. I give it a 10 out of 10, and I hope you join me for my next review. Thank you. Have a great day.